Hello and welcome to Creating a New World, the show about the 12 Visions world, a world of wealth, health, peace, love, and freedom that you can help create. I'm Bill Hunsiker, your host, and I'd like to welcome my co-host, Bob McCaffrey. Welcome to the show, Bob.
Good morning, Bill, and thank you. I'm happy to be here. Looking forward to a great morning.
On this episode, we will be discussing the internet, what it will look like in the 12 Visions world. Um, if we have time, we may have a quick round of Where's the Force? Uh, and then in the uh, Creating the 12 Visions World section, we are continuing our discussion of the national our national platform, and we will be talking about education there, and then during the how you can help create the 12 Visions world, there will be a special announcement. So look forward to that. We'll get started with the first part of the show, the 12 Visions world, and the topic will be the internet. Basically, the internet will not change a lot, although there will not be as much regulation of internet service. There will not be regulation of internet service providers. So you will have a lot more choice of what kind of, how much service you want, what kinds of services will be provided, um, and you'll have to take responsibility to really, and that's part of the 12 Visions world. The 12 Visions world is a world where every person takes responsibility for everything that happens in their lives, including making choices about how to access the internet. And the internet will also, you know, it will it will be free for anyone to access, anyone to publish anything on, and so you'll have to be very discerning about what you read and what but also there won't be people being deceptive and trying to trap people into into false accusations or into uh, you know and people will be a lot more savvy. I really, once more and more people get into the neo-think mentality and are really, taking responsibility for their lives and also paying attention, and because people will say this person ripped me off, this person was deceptive, and they'll share it, and other people will see it, and basically the internet will reflect real life in that people who do not deal honestly with other people will be um, will be basically ignored and pushed aside. Um, and the internet will be a great source of information and a great place for sharing ideas, I think. Any comments, Bob?
No, like you said, it's really not going to change a heck of a lot. There
Mm-hmm.
will be some changes, but not. I mean, people are able to do all those things today.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yes, the internet is one area where you know government control is very little. There is regulation of internet service providers, and there is some, but we won't have people pretending to be 14-year-old girls to entrap people into making admittances or whatever.
yeah,
You know, to me that's deception and entrapment. I mean, it's bad that there are people out there trying to abuse 14-year-old girls, but that still doesn't excuse people being deceptive, you know.
hopefully at that point we can get the internet where uh, the people that are doing identity theft on the internet will be done away with.
Well, that again, that's where technology will continue to improve
Yes.
and continue to grow to the point where you will be able to, protect yourself. And basically all the things that make a lot of the things that make identity theft something worth doing in the world we live in now won't exist in the 12 Visions world.
Mm-hmm.
And again, technology will improve to the point where it will be very easy to prove your identity, and you know, plus in most cases all interactions will be voluntary, as opposed to a lot of the interactions now that are regulated and in some ways either inhibited or prohibited. You know, as long as people aren't doing anything to hurt each other, you know, all interactions will be possible. Let's put it that way.
Right. Right.
And you know, the only factor will be whether or not you're hurting someone.
Right.
And so that in that way, the world in general and the internet will be freer, because people will be free to interact the way they wish, as long as they're, you know, like I said, not trying to hurt someone.
Right. Or force.
Yep, or being deceptive.
Right.
And also, technology will continue to improve and much more rapidly, so that we will have the virtual reality interactions that that are talked about in science fiction stories, where you can have basically virtual presence, you know, anywhere in the world and eventually off the world, and be, you know, as within the limitations of actual you know, physics, we can interact with each other almost instantaneously, and eventually they may find ways to interact instantaneously over great distances. I mean, it may even be possible to go beyond the speed of light, so that you can have a direct conversation with someone on Mars, for instance. It's a possibility. Right now it looks unlikely, but there will be breakthroughs, and at the very least technology will reach the point where you will be able to have a crystal clear conversation with someone, even though there may be a delay of minutes, you know, between each person speaking.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of where the internet will expand, is that people will eventually live off of the Earth. Will live in space stations, on the moon, and eventually the other planets. And technology will grow to the point, because we're constantly looking for more, you know, for new horizons, and we've almost pretty much run out of new horizons on the Earth.
Yeah.
Just about every place that's easily inhabitable is inhabited, pretty much.
Yeah, and it's interesting because a gentleman by the name of Buckminster Fuller was talking about things like that back in the 60s and the 70s. In one of the books that he wrote, he showed large spheres that were roughly a mile in diameter that were anchored to the Earth, and yet they were suspended in the air because the heat of the sun heated up the volume of air inside the sphere, that it would raise it right off the Earth, and it had to be anchored to the Earth, otherwise it would just float away. And they actually put Earth and whatever, and had people living in those spheres. That was his ideas then, and so to see some of this stuff happening and being talked about, it's interesting.
Of course, the other side of the internet also will be the cost will go down, just like everything else. The cost to access the internet, the cost to you know, to have a presence on the internet, all of these will go down, along with everything else in the 12 Visions world, as people basically develop technology more and more efficiently.
Yeah.
And, you know, and basically, and you also won't have corporations trying to get a monopoly on you know, either internet access or any other aspect of the internet, which we do have now.
Yeah.
Either on their own or by trying to get government to to regulate the internet in such a way that they have an advantage.
Yeah. That's the controls.
Mm-hmm. And also advertising on the internet. We will have technology where everyone will have a choice of how much advertising they want to see. And they'll be able to set up their browser to either see nothing or see advertising in certain areas that they're interested, or just see everything if that's what they prefer.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll be able to go to a website and not be overwhelmed. There are several websites that I used to like that I now don't visit anymore because basically, you're just overwhelmed. You start to read an article and you get a pop-up covering the article. You know, those kind of things irritate me.
Yeah.
And you'll have the choice of how much of that you want as you browse the internet. So I think while it won't change a whole lot, the internet will be a much pleasant and even more fun place than it is now in the 12 Visions world.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to the next part, which I call "Where's the Force?" And let's see. The topic today will be manufacturing. Bob, where's the Force?
Oh, one of the areas for Force is OSHA and safety requirements that are required in manufacturing facilities. Some of the things that they're requiring today are so ridiculous. It's pathetic. I mean, I realize that it does you do have to have certain safety things that have to be taken care of, and people do have to be protected. But in some cases, it's just being carried so far. When you got to reroute areas of your facility, for example, so you don't have people and the lift trucks in the same area. It kind of makes it difficult for everybody getting around the plant, and it's really not necessary. And like I suggested to somebody else, rather than do something like that, why not get rid of the problem? You got an individual that's reckless on a forklift or on a vehicle within the plant that's not doing what he should do. Why not just get rid of him? I mean, there are people that are very good on the lift trucks, and they're very cautious, and they give the pedestrian the right of way as they are supposed to. And there are other people that just don't care, and that they're very reckless with them, and they're a hazard to the people. So, to force those things on a company to have to do that, it's all a lot of effort that they have to put in it. They want lines painted on the floor so pedestrians got to walk in this area. Trucks can only go in this area, and it's just ridiculous in my opinion. Even some of the safeties that are required on the machines, they require guarding on the machines. There are times when individuals have to have access to live parts or the moving equipment, because they've got to be able to watch what's going on real close, and they have to be able to make adjustments. And these people are trained in working with the machine, and they know how to handle it. And I realize that there are times when they make mistakes, but you can't make everything 100% idiot-proof. No matter what you do, even with the safeties, people still get hurt, and it just seems to get carried away so drastically, and it's so costly to the companies.
Yeah, I agree 100%. One of the major problems with overregulation, and you talked about it without specifically stating it, is that it takes away individual responsibility.
Right.
It makes it so that so that you don't have to be careful because they put all these regulations in place, and then it impedes your ability to you know efficiently do the work.
Right.
And it
Slows down the whole process and costs the company a lot of money to do it.
absolutely increases production costs.
Yes.
And
Instead of the prices coming down, the prices go up.
and as usual in our world, whenever one person or a few people, either do something wrong or make a mistake, then the the response is to basically uh, punish everyone for the mistakes or actions of a few.
Yes.
And that's the way regulation works in the world today. Whereas in the 12 Visions world, everyone's going to be responsible for their own actions, and with and also learn a mentality of being responsible for your actions.
Mm-hmm.
And people won't be, you won't need all these regulations to prevent people from getting hurt because they will take care of themselves.
Unfortunately, that taking responsibility requires some thinking about what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And like Henry Ford says, thinking is the most difficult task there is, and that's why so many people refuse to do it.
Yes, and as we'll get into in more detail in the next section, unfortunately, we're taught not to think.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Bob, and we'll go ahead and move on to that next section. We'll go ahead and this section is creating the 12 Visions world, where we talk about the 12 Visions movement and the organization that is doing all the planning for it, the 12 Visions Party. And we'll start this section out with a reading of the Prime Law. Can you do that, Bob? If you have the platform in front of you, you can just flip to the front of it.
I've got it.
Yep.
And I can do that for you.
Thank you.
Okay, the Prime Law, the fundamental of protection. The preamble, the purpose of human life is to prosper and live happily. The function of government is to provide the conditions that let individuals fulfill that purpose. The Prime Law guarantees those conditions by forbidding the use of initiatory force, fraud, coercion by any person or group against any individual, property, or contract. Article 1. No person, group of persons, or government shall initiate force, threat of force, or fraud against any individuals, self, property, or contract. Article 2. Force is morally and legally justified only for protection of those who violate Article 1. Article 3. No exceptions shall exist for Articles 1 and 2. The Prime Law is the fundamental natural law of protection that directs all decisions and actions of the 12 Visions Party. The Prime Law may not be amended.
Thank you, Bob.
Welcome.
And I'll go ahead and read the next section of the platform that we're discussing, and it is entitled Education. In America, the rule of man, rule of vote-gathering man, reaches wherever it can summon substantial values. Parents want good education for their children, and therefore education is a political target for rule of vote-gathering man. When education, medicine, or any profession or industry becomes politicized, the steady descent of efficiency and effectiveness begins. Put another way, the chokehold of inefficiency and ineffectiveness begins as exemplified by America's ineffectual educational system. The role of government in Hamilton America is simply to guarantee the conditions for happiness and prosperity by protecting the people from initiatory force. The Prime Law prevents government from going beyond its sole purpose of protection. Therefore, no risk of the rule of man, vote-gathering man, can occur in Hamilton America's government. Its government cannot politicize education, medicine, or any profession or industry. The education system in Hamilton America does not follow the pathetic path of Sister America. The wealth and prosperity among citizens of Hamilton America leads to a far superior private educational system in which parents vote with their feet. Instead of a dumbing down effect as in Sister America, here there is a smartening up effect. Here the geniuses of society are born. The universal wealth from the great technological revolution in Hamilton America enables every parent to easily afford private education. It becomes part of the cost of living, which is extraordinarily low in the only country to ever experience the great technological revolution. That low cost of living delivers the world's highest standard of living and produces the world's best educational system. Sister America struggles to graduate students who can read. Hamilton America graduates students who can create. They go on to create great values for the world and great wealth and prestige for themselves. And this is what I was alluding to. I mean, basically, unfortunately, the education system we have as run by our government does not teach people to think or create. It teaches people to conform, to become, another piece of society, to be a good citizen, to be, to obey the law and pay your taxes and do what you're told. That's basically what you're taught to do in school. There are exceptional teachers who go beyond that, but that is what what the purpose of the government-run education system is, to create citizens, not to create creating individuals. You have any comments on that? Go ahead.
You want the citizens that are going to follow what their leadership wants to do, regardless of the cost to the individual citizens. The politicians and the people that rule our governments, they want to do this, and supposedly they're doing good things to help the poor and to help other people and to help other nations and whatever it may be, or help the children that are in need because of illnesses and that. And I guess I support that, but I don't support the way that it's done, where they tell you this is what you got to do, and you don't have a choice about it. I mean, if I have a feeling I want to support somebody because I feel there's a need, I want to be able to do that voluntarily of my own initiative. I don't want to have somebody standing there telling me, oh, you're going to work harder and you're going to work more hours and you're going to pay us more money so that we can do this to support these people. And I just don't believe in that.
Yeah, at this point, I just wanted to remind our viewers that we do have the Q&A app open, so if you have any questions or comments on what we're talking about, feel free to go ahead and open that app up on your screen and type in your questions or comments. Yeah, this is unfortunately where we're at today. People graduate from high school, and then when they go into college, they have to take remedial courses in order to meet the minimum standards for the college that they've entered. And that shows that that they're not being properly prepared in elementary school and high school. And that shows what happens when you have basically education got by committee, which is pretty much what we have. And therefore everyone's preferences and ideas get put in there, whether they're actual actual things that should be there or not, including religious ideas instead of scientific ideas.
And I discovered this was even a problem back in the 50s. When I signed up to go into the military, and I put in for school, I got into the school, and then when I started to take the courses, I had to go and take additional math courses because my math wasn't up where it was supposed to be. Now, we weren't aware of these problems back in the 50s and the early 60s, but they were there, and I was a victim of it, unfortunately. But fortunately, I didn't get the educational help that I needed and was able to continue on with the course. But I have to say, for that first 6 weeks of the course that I took, it was a struggle because it was all that extra work that I had to put in order to be able to keep up with the class.
Okay, thank you for that, Bob. Unless you have any other comments, I think we can move on to the next section of the platform. We do definitely have sufficient time.
Okay.
And would you like to go ahead and read that one?
Sure. Budget. As American citizens lose their jobs and savings, the government continues to increase its debt and therefore the long-term tax burden on the people and their children. The culprit is the rising rule of man, of vote-gathering men, seeking to win substantial segments of the voting public. Politicians race further and further into the entitlement game, bringing more entitlement to more segments of the population attracts more votes. Today, the weight of the budget is collapsing upon America. And as it does, the politicians continue to call for yet a larger and larger budget, demonstrating there is no more hope for Sister America. Hamilton America is limited to the prime law and protection-only budget. The sole purpose of government is to protect, is protection from force of threat of force, which includes all that is needed for protection of the federal level and at the state level, such as military, intelligence, police, courts, prisons, and veterans' pensions. A protection-only budget does not and could not include entitlement beyond veterans' pensions and veterans' war-caused disabilities. The rule of vote-gathering man cannot hijack the budget of Hamilton America. Moreover, the most remarkable phenomena occurs. In the pure freedom of Hamilton America, the great technological revolution, something the world has never before seen, makes all of the people rich. Buying power soars so dramatically that every Hamilton American citizen lives like a millionaire. The prime law of protection only budget guaranteed the condition for which wealthy millionaires like standard of living for everyone. Therefore, the people gladly and voluntarily pay for their fair share of substantial small budget. The government itself can never violate the prime law, can never use initiatory force on its citizen, can never force anyone to pay taxes. Citizens realize that such pure freedom is a precious gift from their great country of wealth, health, and peace. They proudly, but
patriotically,
voluntarily pay their government to guarantee the conditions of such beautiful life.
Yeah, this is the difference between, you know, the 12 Visions world and the world we live in now. Now everything is, you know, what can we do to make people vote for us? Because politicians make you know, being a legislator a career, or, you know, about the only position that they don't make a career is president, and in most cases governor of a state, because we've limited that to you know, prevent them from becoming too powerful. Unfortunately, we haven't limited legislators, we haven't limited members of Congress, so they can make a career of this, and basically, you know, to continue their career, they're going to try to, you know, try to do more and more and give more and more away and gather more and more votes, so they continue to be reelected and they have, you know, they continue in their career. Unfortunately, that leads to what we have now, a huge government that does way more than it should and constantly interferes in our lives.
Right. And there again, we go back to the people that are too lazy that they can do what's required for them to do for themselves. I mean, if they'd only realize that if they put a little effort in and put some time in, they could have much more and much better protection than what our legislators are offering to us. And it's just a matter of doing the work. And unfortunately, a lot of people today just are not willing to put in that effort.
Yes, and unfortunately, our education system tells us from when we're children, if we can't take care of ourselves, the government will take care of us.
Yeah.
And therefore, you know, it's a lot easier to say, I just can't do anything.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna not do anything and just get money. There are people that have valid physical and psychological problems that prevent them from being able to properly take care of themselves and live their own lives. And those people, you know, would need help. And in the 12 Visions world, there would be plenty of people, because all of us will have more than enough money, you know, to sustain ourselves and pursue our interests. And we will be happy to help those few people that have real physical and psychological problems that prevent them from taking care of themselves.
And unfortunately, even with the people immigrating to our country, a large portion of them, I mean, there are the few that are looking for the opportunities to be able to come here and work and make their fortunes. But there are also a large majority of other people that are just looking to hear, oh, well, we go to the United States is going to take care of us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they're looking for.
I mean, the U.S. used to be the land of opportunity. Now it's the land of the handout.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And that's what the majority of people are coming here for. So we used to draw the best and finest from around the world. Now we draw mostly the worst.
Mm-hmm.
It's unfortunate.
Yes.
And you know, of course, the other side of the budget, as discussed in there, not only do we have bigger and bigger budgets every year, but they've given up trying to, you know, to balance the budget, to pay for everything from what they take in. And so they are continually borrowing more and more money, which means that, you know, basically, they're basically, you know, putting unborn future generations into debt.
Yes. And the dollar value, it goes down and down and down.
Yep. And, you know, so basically when you're born, you've been involuntarily assigned, you know, a huge debt.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and also, unfortunately, the reality is a system was set up to create that debt, and it's called the Federal Reserve System.
Right.
I mean, there were two sides of that. One side is that it creates a way that we can continue to borrow money and continue to borrow more and more money no matter what. And the other side of it is, unfortunately, it was created as a non-government private institution, and there are people that are making horrible profits off of this debt. Because basically, the federal government isn't paying its debts, it's just paying interest. And the people that hold these debts are just getting richer and richer off the interests from those debts.
Right.
And that's the insidious side of the budget. So the debt just keeps growing and growing because we never pay it. We just pay the interest, and the interest as the debt grows and grows is going to be more and more and more.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and take more and more money away from actually providing goods and services that the government is supposed to provide.
Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, some of these banking people are not United States citizens, and it's people of other countries. So realistically, what we're doing is we're giving away our country.
Yep, we're just. I mean, And it didn't have to be that way. The government basically, as set up, had control of the money and had control of its production and its distribution, and they gave it away.
Mm-hmm.
There didn't have to be debt.
No.
Because the government creates money.
Right.
And it's just unfortunate. And it unfortunately, it is also the inevitable results of having the kind of government we have. Because eventually people learn that they can use their position to help their friends and punish their enemies and create situations that benefit them greatly, whether it hurts people in general or not.
And unfortunately, the people are getting to the point where they just can't carry the burden anymore.
Nope.
You know, it's a difficult situation.
Yes, it is.
A few are living very well, and the rest of us are working so hard to carry that burden that they put on us.
Yeah, I mean, basically, people are just they're basically destroying their health and their lives just to earn enough money to survive and pay what the government demands of them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we still have more time, so I guess we'll go to the next section of the platform. And that section is entitled Environment. America's ruling class, i.e. the rule of vote-gathering man, uses distortions and contortions of reality, often through pseudoscience, to snare votes. The resulting burden on business and technology increasingly sinks companies, research and development projects, jobs, and wealth. Because everyone cares about our land, water, and air, the environment becomes a prime target for using pseudoscience to snare votes. Indeed, the rule of man and his distortions of reality for votes reaches more and more aggressively into America's gullible, close-to-the-heart love for nature. Politicians and bureaucrats put more and more cost-prohibitive environmental regulations upon American businesses, technologies, research and development projects, and investors. Well, those businesses, technologies, research projects, and investors have begun to fail at an alarming rate. Jobs, wealth, raw materials, products, and future products rapidly vanish from the American economy. Yet America never learns her lesson, for parasites, i.e. the adapting bacteria-like rule of man, cannot stop themselves before killing their host. Hamilton America stands by, free of America's raging internal infection. The good Americans who can no longer go down with their country leave for Hamilton America. In the end, it is Hamilton America that rescues Americans. In Hamilton America, the environment, as does everything else, answers to the prime law. That means an individual can do anything on his or her property as long as it does not directly harm any other individual or his or her property. No broad sweeping consensus building pseudoscience can rise in Hamilton America and burden businesses, research, science, and their investors. No government cannot hurt job and value creating businesses and science in Hamilton America. The prime law does not allow it. Therefore, Hamilton America is the most friendly nation to business, research, and science. As Sister America experiences a systemic failure of her businesses, Hamilton America experiences an explosion of new businesses. Moreover, the land, water, and air get dramatically cleaner in nature-loving Hamilton America than in any other place on earth. Why? For every demand confronted by the great technological revolution, soon comes the new technologies to supply the demand. People love clean air, water, and land. Therefore, the great technological revolution in Hamilton America quickly evolves new technologies that effectively remove pollutants and other environmental concerns. Instead of wilting under pseudoscience, Hamilton America blossoms with pure science. And this is, this is the world we live in. And the reality is every pollutant is actually a resource that can be used, a chemical resource, as as long as technology is developed to use that resource. We don't need to have, you know, chemicals everywhere that destroy the environment. Those chemicals can be used effectively in new ways to produce, you know, better goods and services.
Yeah. An example of our government and our representatives not doing things properly. I guess one example is what the situation that they're having in Detroit with their water, where legislators decided, even though they knew supposedly that the water was contaminated, they decided to tap into that water system and supply it to their people in their drinking water. And unfortunately, it's caused a lot of problems and illnesses in our young children. And it's just, you know, whether it was done intentionally or even an honest mistake, something like that should have never happened, where they know that there is a hazard in the water, and yet they're supplying it to the citizens.
Yeah, it was a totally unnecessary man-made disaster.
Yes.
That's basically what it was. And again, even if it was, you know, an honest mistake, it was still politics that caused that mistake. The politicization of the decision-making process. Because at the very least, it looked like they were more concerned about saving money for the government. Not necessarily for people, but for the government, than they were, you know, and to look like they were trying to do something good by, you know, reducing costs to the government, than they were concerned about the health of the people that they were supposed to be protecting. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
You know, that they were supposed, that you have to be more concerned about the people than about money or anything else. Otherwise, your actions are plainly immoral on its face, you know. And this kind of thing is all over the country. I mean, and unfortunately, in some ways, regulations actually prevent the efficient reuse of these things that become pollutants in our environment, you know.
Right.
And in some cases we have regulations that were developed decades ago, and the technology and methods have improved since then, but those regulations still prevent the proper handling and reuse of those chemicals. I mean, that's the kind of world we live in today, where everything is, you know, it's either mandatory or prohibited.
Yes.
In a lot of cases. And some of the things that are prohibited don't need to be prohibited anymore because of advances in technology and handling methods and all those things. And some of the things that are mandatory, you know, nothing should be mandatory. You know, only those things that protect people directly, not other things. And then in addition to that, these regulations are so complicated, you know, that it's impossible for someone to learn and understand how to follow them. And I do not want to be in a manufacturing business in the world we live in now, because it's just, you know, it's a lose-lose situation.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that has happened over the years is they've allowed people to encroach on waterways to build homes and that. And now I see they're trying to push through some legislation where the companies that are using water and putting pure, clear water back out into the system, you know, they recycle water, it comes in, and then they put it out into our waterways, and it's not a problem normally, but yet when we get the heavy rains and the storms or the heavy snowstorms and that, and where we get the large amounts of runoff, now what they're trying to do is force individual companies to be prepared to take the water that they are presently using for their process, whatever it may be, and be able to accumulate that water and hold it in the event that we have a large rainstorm or thunderstorm or whatever it might be that creates the flooding in the areas that they've encroached on. They want us to now to be able to hold that water until the storm is past and the water's levels have gone down, and then we can let the water go out into the system as we normally do. And this, for a company, it's a large expense that they're talking about. I mean, to buy the storage tanks and that, to be able to store this water for a couple of weeks maybe, you're running a big expense. But yet this is something that the water companies are looking to put on manufacturing today.
Yeah, it's everywhere. And I mean, the basic idea here is that, for me, it's always that, something's only a pollutant if it's mishandled.
Mm-hmm.
If it's properly handled, it can become a resource. It can be recovered and reused because it's, and we can always develop new ways to recombine and remake chemicals so that they become useful products again.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's all basic chemistry. How materials interact with each other. But instead, if people were allowed and not prohibited and restricted in developing new ways to handle these byproducts of manufacturing, we could find more and more efficient ways to recover and reuse these chemicals rather than allowing them to become hazardous, pollutants in the environment.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next section, which is the how you can help create the 12 Visions world. And first, we're going to talk again about ways people can help and become involved in creating the 12 Visions world, and then we have an announcement to make. So again, the most basic way you can help is by talking to other people and telling them what you like about the 12 Visions world and how you think that it would, that's the kind of world you want to live in. You can also become involved in a lot of ways. You can contact your state's local 12 Visions Party affiliate and volunteer to help. Also, if you wish and you're in a position to, you can contribute money to your local 12 Visions Party state affiliate or to the National 12 Visions Party. Basically, the more people we have helping and the more money we have, the quicker we'll be able to bring about the changes that will bring us the 12 Visions world. And you can also become directly involved in the planning and implementation of bringing this about by joining your 12 Visions Party state affiliate and either becoming an officer or becoming directly involved. And also become involved in organizing the 12 Visions Party down to your county and local level too. And you can also help create the 12 Visions world by helping this show, telling people about this show, and contributing to the cost of producing this show by going to patreon.com/creatinganewworld and pledging $1 or more per episode to help us produce the show. So those are all the ways you can become involved. And if you're interested in that, you can go to the 12 Visions Party national website, which is tvpnc.org, and you can fill out a I want to volunteer form, and there they will get you in touch with your state's affiliate and get you started in helping to create the 12 Visions world. Now we'll go on to our announcement.
If I could suggest
Absolutely, go right ahead.
I'd like to suggest that for people, the starting point would be for them to do their due diligence and look at what the politicians are doing and what effect they're having on our lives, and look at what the 12 Visions Party has the opportunity and potential of creating from them and allowing them to help create. It's not that we're creating it for them, it's that they're getting involved and they're helping create what they want in their lives. And, you know, a lot of people, unfortunately, are not willing to take the effort to look into things like that. Mm-hmm. And I suggest that you just take and do a little bit of due diligence and look to see what the possibilities are. And I'm sure you see the benefits and the potential for the 12 Visions Party. Your attitudes might change, and you'd be more than willing to get involved and do something with the 12 Visions Party.
I agree 100% with that. And in addition, you can, if you do become involved, you can help create the kind of world that you want.
Yes.
Rather than the kind of world that we want.
Yes.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's, you know, you're not going to get something by hoping for it or just thinking about it or you know, hoping somebody else will do it. The best way to get what you want is to go out there and create it and make it yourself.
Right.
Another way you can get involved in creating the 12 Visions world is by becoming a candidate for the 12 Visions Party. And I would like to announce now that I will be a candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives this year from New Jersey. And I would like to ask anyone who lives in New Jersey who hears this show to help me in doing that, and also consider being a candidate yourself. I mean, one of the best ways to get the ideas out there is to become a candidate and speak to the public about what we're doing, and that's what I intend to do. And as you know, and from this point forward, every year I intend to be a candidate for office, either at the federal or state level, to help bring this message about, and hopefully also eventually to be elected and have an even wider audience to talk about these ideas. And hopefully more and more of us will do this until we are in a position to actually make the changes in our government that will bring this about. So I look forward to doing that, and I hope those of you out there will help us and help me as I continue to do this. In future episodes, we will continue to have updates on where that is going and our progress toward that goal.
I would like to congratulate you, Bill, on taking this step and making this decision to move ahead, and I support you 100%.
Thank you, Bob. And I would like to just say that I'm honored to be able to do this, and to me it's I've been on doing this show for over a year and talking about this, and I feel that it's about time that I actually did something rather than just sitting here talking about it. Yeah. And that's part of the reason why I made the decision to move forward with this.
Yeah. And for our listeners, that's one small example of getting involved and taking action to improve your life.
Okay, we'll go ahead and wrap up this episode. I want to thank you, Bob, for coming on the show, and appreciate everything you do, and look forward to working with you in the future in all of our endeavors, you know, toward bringing about the 12 Visions world.
Thank you, Bill. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, I would also like to thank everyone who watched us record this show, and everyone who watches or listens to the recording in the future. If you have any questions, please send them to cnwshow@gmail.com. You can see previous episodes at www.tocreateanewworld.blogspot.com. Like us on Facebook, just search for CNW Show. Also join our Google Plus community. Also search for CNW Show. You can support the show by telling your family and friends about it. You can also support the show by going to www.patreon.com/creatinganewworld and pledging $1 or more an episode. All opinions expressed on the show are the sole responsibility of the individual participants and do not represent the Neothink Society, the 12 Visions Party, or author Mark Hamilton. Creating a New World is a production of Integrated Values, LLC. I wish everyone wealth, health, peace, love, and freedom.